Oh yeah, we back. We're back. We're back. Class is in session. Topic of the day: how to become a god in your environment. Okay, so getting right into it. First thing, you got to make sure that you're in total control of your emotions. Okay, this is a really big one because the truth is everything in any reality that we exist in, the reason why we perceive things, the reason why we see things the way that we see them is because of how we feel. Okay, so depending on how you're feeling in a given situation, you might feel a different way towards something, so you might have a different perspective on it. So, for example, if you're looking at something and say it's a piece of food, right? You're gonna look at that food differently depending on how you're feeling about food currently. So, if you just came back from suffering from food poisoning, you might look at food and it might make you a little queasy in your stomach, right? But if you haven't eaten in 2 days, you're gonna look at that food and you're gonna be like, man, that food looks really good right about now. And naturally, you're gonna have a different emotion towards it depending on what situation you've been given. Okay, so keep that in mind. Controlling your emotions is the number one thing you must do in order to take total control over any reality that your being is in. So I would define a god as being anyone who is able to do what they want and have things how they want whenever they know that they want it. Okay, mind you, I said when they know that they want it, because you have to have control over your emotions. If you don't know what you want, you can't create, because of course anytime you're creating something, you have to visualize, you have to have it in your mind first what it is that you want to come to fruition, what it is that you desire to come to fruition. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is you got to make sure that you have control over the other's emotions if you're in an environment with other beings, which of course most of the time you are, whether it be people, dogs, cats, the trees, etc. You have to have control over how they're feeling also. So I'll just go ahead and give you another example. If you're surrounded by people, a god in a given situation, when a god is in a room amongst beings who are not there, you're going to have to make sure that you have control over their emotions also. This is how you harness energy, okay? A god is a master of harnessing energy. So if you ever realize, a lot of these celebrities do a lot of publicity stunts, right? So in order to keep your attention on them, they might say something crazy on the internet. They might say something crazy during a press conference, or they might do something in order to get people's emotional reaction, emotional response. The reason why they do that is because they might be aware that the only way that your power is relevant in any reality is if you have control over the overall emotions towards whatever it is that the focus is. So if I want to be the focus, I have to make sure that I'm triggering certain emotions in these other beings, these other people, animals, or what have you. Okay, so the same concept is when you're training a pet, right? When you're training a pet, you have to have that pet feel in a certain way towards you, and they have to know that you're the one who has the control. You're the one who has the authority. Okay? So if the pet doesn't necessarily respect your authority, they're not going to obey what the commands are or the demands are. And that has to do with any scenario that you're in any reality. You have to make sure that it is very well seen who the focus is, as far as who's the priority and who has the authority, and then who is the subordinate. That's the reason why school and dictation, any kind of form of control or government, that's why it's set up like that. There's always a hierarchy, and there's always a perspective of somebody's above, somebody's below. That's why it's like that at any job. That's why it's like that in school, etc. Okay, and to keep going with this, I have a few examples of how you can make sure that you are making sure that when you're doing this, you're balanced enough to make sure that you're creating the reality that you want. So if you have access to both sides of your brain, I have a whole another video on this, because of course you have to have access to both sides of your brain, and all of your chakras have to be totally aligned in order for this, in order for you to access your highest potential. So it all goes back to controlling your emotions and being aware of your emotions, because your chakras aren't going to spin properly. You know, you got 7 of them, or at least that's what I'm focusing on. You actually have a lot more, but that's another subject for another time. We're staying focused here. So if you have a few of them that aren't spinning properly, if they're not functioning properly, or if you're not aware enough of the traumas that you've experienced, you're not going to necessarily be aware of how or why you feel the ways that you feel towards certain subjects. So that can affect or impact the amount of energy you're able to harness and direct. The whole point is not only being able to harness energy, but being able to direct it in a specific direction, of course. Because, I mean, it's one thing to have ammunition, but if you don't ever aim at something and shoot at it, you basically just have a hammer, right? So if you don't ever aim and fire, you're kind of limiting yourself. So not only do you have to be able to harness energy and soak it up, but you have to be able to direct it towards something. And that's where the creative energy comes into play. Because if you're not necessarily creative enough, you're not going to know what to do with the energy when you get it. That would be what somebody might have happen whenever they're making wishes mindlessly and then they mess around and get it. That's why they say be careful what you wish for, because you might make wishes and you might think you know what you want or whatever, but you never even asked yourself why you want that. You never asked yourself about how you'll feel once you get it, because maybe you didn't actually expect to get it, because a lot of people don't recognize how powerful they are. Okay. Another thing, you have to make sure that you are not even attached to the idea of what it is that you want to create. I promise you, it'll be a lot easier to create what you want to create whenever you're like, man, I'm good with or without that junk, man. It's whatever. I know it's coming regardless. I'm not trying to force it. I'm not trying to egg on the issue or anything. You just decide what it is that you desire, do what it takes in order to bring it into fruition, and then just let it go and detach. And once you do that, that's the easiest way to get stuff to come into your life. It's the easiest way to attract stuff. So, like I was saying about the chakras, you have to make sure that all of them are aligned, and you do so by being able to forgive or heal from whatever traumas it is, depending on what chakra it is. It will have something to do with whatever you experienced in the past, because you got to recognize that the emotions from the past, present, and future all exist right now. They all exist in the present moment, because what you experienced in the past is going to affect how you feel in the present. Your idea about who you will be is going to have an impact on what you're creating when you're in the midst of creating, using your right brain and having ideas of what reality you want to create. That's the whole point. You got to have total awareness of yourself and your surroundings in every environment. You ever seen that movie Lucy? I don't know if y'all ever seen that movie, but if you haven't, you should check it out. They show in that movie very clearly the potential of a human being whenever they're 100% accessing every part of their brain, or should I say they're at their fullest potential. And when, I don't want to spoil the whole movie, but when you get to certain parts of the movie, it's very clear to see that she has control over everything around her. It's not just as simple as being able to get people to give you what you want, like that's cool or whatever, but literally everything in your environment is under your control, whether you realize it or not. But it will only be under your control once you are totally aligned and you're self-aware. You have to know yourself. You will hear any person who is spiritually aware, they will constantly remind you that you have to know thyself. You have to know who you are and what you're capable of. And here's a secret. You're capable of anything. So that's what you got to recognize. You got to recognize you have unlimited potential. And the only person who will ever get in your way or slow you down from getting whatever it is that you desire is you. Nobody can stop you from doing what you really want to do here. And that's the cool thing about life, is nobody has any limitations. But that is why government is such a big deal. That's why politics is being promoted so much. That's why your idea of who is subordinate and who is superior is so important in order to keep control over you. Because if you're aware that nobody has control over you, if you're aware that you are the god of your reality, it's not going to be easy to control you. It's impossible to control somebody who knows who they truly are, because it doesn't matter what you think about them, they're still going to do what they want to do because they're secure within themselves. And that's the thing about a god. A god is always going to be secure within themselves, and they're not going to be easily moved. So if it's easy for other people to piss you off or to annoy you or bother you or get you off your game, know that you have to get control over that in order for you to reach your fullest potential. That is very, very important. Now, I could go on and on about a whole lot of different ways that you can make sure that you can control your reality, but I feel like this is a very good foundation. I'm going to keep making videos on stuff like this. And the truth is, all these videos that I put on this channel, they all have something to do with how to become a god in general and how to reach your fullest potential. So when you put all of these videos together in a conglomerate of intelligence, that's what you're going to come up with. You're going to reach your fullest potential once you know what works for you, and once you recognize what parts of the information and bits and pieces it is that you needed, because of course one person can watch my videos, they might get one thing out of it. You watch my videos, you're going to get a different perspective. And that's what's cool about this, is that in this community that we're getting started, we're able to bounce ideas off of each other and ask questions and share our experiences with each other. So make sure you keep some comments in the comment section below if you got any stories to tell about how you've controlled your reality. I would love to hear it. I've realized that a lot of times with me, now it's pretty easy for me to move things with my mind. So a lot of the time, whenever I have somebody in my vicinity, like maybe it's a friend of mine or something, and they're doing something that might be a little bit like bothersome or what have you, in order for me to get back at them, I'll use my mind and I make them drop things. I'll make a small inconvenience in their life. It could be something as simple as, like, if they're holding a toothbrush, they might just, like, it might slip out of their hand a little bit and then they catch it or something like that. But I'm aware that I am doing these things. It could be something big or small, but normally I'm not using my powers for malicious intent, because the truth is I have great intentions here and I want to help you guys. That's why I make these videos. So if you got any more subjects you would like for me to speak on, make sure you hit me up in the comment section and click that thumbs up button and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't, so that you don't miss any of these videos that I got coming, because I got a lot of content coming for you guys. Till next time, have a great one.